Farrow. I want to acknowledge all who are here. Superintendent David Brown, Commander Angel Novales, Deputy Chief Talley, Chris Taliaferro, who you just heard from, and Alderman Aro Aboyos, as well as Bon Bryant of the Metropolitan Peace Initiatives, who's been an invaluable partner in our community policing efforts. And I also want to do a special call out for Marcus Williams, a proud member of the Austin community and strong partner in the 15th District's DCO program. This is a great day for our communities and a great day for our city. As public servants, our first mission is ensuring the safety and security of our residents and communities. That's a mission not built on force, but on a foundation of trust, legitimacy, and transparency. Trust that travels both ways between our communities and our officers sworn to serve and protect them, and forms a basis for everything that we're doing in respect to community policing here in Chicago. It was in that spirit that a little over a year ago, there was the public launch by the Chicago Police Department of a new program called the Chicago Neighborhood Policing Initiative. And this was launched as a pilot in CPD's 25th District in the Grand Central community. Now, I heard about this program back then from Chairman Raboyos, whose ward includes the 25th District, and he raved about it from the very beginning. This initiative, led by Commander Novales and modeled after similar effort in New York, this program will is fundamentally about problem solving, one in which residents identify geographically specific problems, and an officer dedicated to that geography is called upon to address those hyper-local problems in a responsive, innovative, and accountable way. This is addressing public safety issues, both big and small, through face-to-face collaboration. Simply put, our officers are spending the bulk of their time in their communities responding to 911 calls, or as they would say, chasing calls. I've heard this over and over again from officers that they would love to get out of their cars. They would love to develop deeper relationships, but the structure of the job worked against them. That left officers frustrated, and more importantly, it left residents frustrated. Too many opportunities to connect and bridge the divide were simply missed. Officers and residents simply could not develop the trusting relationships that they needed in order to make sure that they were able to interact in non-emergency, non-law enforcement circumstances. They need a chance to get to know each other. And that's what the Neighborhood Policing Initiative has done. Under this program, designated officers called District Coordination Officers, or DCOs, have an opportunity and responsibility over defined geography within a community. They hand out business cards with their names, cell phone numbers, and email addresses, and speak one-on-one with residents about their concerns. Those conversations often begin with nagging issues, such as speeding cars or a loud neighbor. But rather than call 911 when these issues come up, residents know that they can call their DCO, who then works to resolve these issues with the help of beat officers, detectives, local aldermen, area businesses, and of course, their colleagues in city government at other agencies. The result hasn't just been more time away from responding to 911 calls, but also a drop in 911 calls themselves. For example, since January of this year, the 25th District has seen over 1,500 fewer 911 calls since the same period last year. And that's why, after the success that we saw in the 25th District, it was expanded to the 15th District in Austin. What does this mean? It means more collaboration, more connection, and more trust, all of which has given both residents and officers the basis on which to build authentic relationships, which is at the heart of community policing, working together to solve problems that are top of mind for residents, and helping create the communities in the city we all want to see and are proud to call home. Earlier, I said that our first mission as public servants is the safety and security of our residents and our communities, and of course that's true. But as public servants, we have a responsibility to take something good that is working on behalf of our residents and scale it up and build it into community policing efforts elsewhere in our city. That's exactly why the Neighborhood Policing Initiative is the success that it's been and what we're doing right now. Starting today, the Chicago Police Department, under the leadership of Superintendent Brown and Commander Navales, will be expanding the Neighborhood Policing Initiative into the 9th District in Deering, the 10th District in Ogden, where we are right now, and the 11th District in Harrison. With training of these officers and their supervisors beginning next month, and their assignments starting this fall. But that's not all we're announcing today. As part of our 90-day policing and reform deadline, we said earlier this summer, the Chicago Police Department will also be piloting the new Community Training Academy, a 3-day training program that will be included during the training for new district coordination officers, created in partnership with the Metropolitan Peace Academy and other community organizations and leaders like Vaughn Bryant. The Community Training Academy will provide community-based and community-specific trainings for the DCOs and officers assigned to the district's community policing office, formally connecting them to the specific dynamics in a given community and deepening their understanding of historic key factors relating to policing and community concerns in a particular geography. Having them learn directly from community members and stakeholders about the strengths and challenges in particular neighborhoods, as well as develop an understanding of the biases that hamper the strong engagement we need to make our communities safe. Now let's be clear. No single program will solve every problem or bridge every divide between our police and community, issues that have been brewing for years. But these issues are necessary for us to address in a forward-thinking, positive way and bringing all the community stakeholders to the table. And that's what we're doing. That's why we will continue to meet with our community leaders, residents, allies, and critics as part of this all-hands-on-deck effort. I truly believe from the bottom of my heart that we all want the same thing as Chicagoans and fellow residents and neighbors: safe streets, safe homes, safe businesses, a place to prosper, and to make sure that our children understand that the promise of their future lies right here in Chicago. This is a great day for our city because this is a day that we're taking yet another step forward on our journey together as Chicagoans. And this program is another example of what police reform looks like. Born of necessity, forged in partnership, and a testament to the truth that building authentic, trusting relationships is the cornerstone for keeping communities safe. We owe a debt of thanks to the original DCOs in the 25th District and the residents that they served. You showed what we can do when we come together and work hard on these issues. I want to now invite Superintendent Brown to the podium and thank everyone for being here. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I tell you what, I'm so excited I can hardly contain myself. Hope I can get through my notes here about the expansion of the Neighborhood Policing Initiative. It is what policing has to be. Enforcing only is just not sustainable, not successful. Not only does it not connect with the community, but it actually does just the opposite. It, tears down trust that you would have when you need to build up trust. So I'm really excited. Every day since I've been sworn in over 100 days ago, I've asked about when can we expand? When can we expand? End up having to promote Angel Navales to actually get this expansion done because we were just dragging our feet on the expansion. I wanted to do it right away, day one. So I'm excited, but let me try to get through my notes. This is the mission of the Chicago Neighborhood Policing Initiative. The job of the district coordinators, or the DCOs, that work as part of this initiative is to introduce themselves to as many people as possible in a specific geographic area. They hand out business cards, give their names, their cell phone numbers, and email addresses. There are many public safety concerns that don't warrant a call to 911. The DCOs are tasked with answering those calls and addressing such issues, problem solving. They work with beat officers, detectives, aldermen, area businesses, sister agencies to resolve nagging concerns, as well as work with to find solutions on larger public safety problems. The DCOs will begin their assignments later this fall in the 10th or Ogden District, as well as the 9th or Deering District and 11th or Harrison District. This initiative began, as the mayor said, in the 25th or Grand Central District in January 2019. It expanded to 15 or Austin District in December. CPD has seen some strong results, particularly in the 25th District on the northwest side. 911 calls are down in this district. That's no small thing. I'm gonna say it twice. 911 calls are down in this district. 911 calls being down means more time for officers to connect with the community, more time for officers to problem solve, which I believe is a direct result of residents reaching out to the DCO instead of calling 911. Fewer emergency calls allows beat officers to spend more time on their patrol and respond more quickly when a call does come in. The new class of DCOs will begin their training next month. Part of this curriculum includes the new Community Training Academy. And I would like to thank Vaughn Bryant and the Metropolitan Peace Academy for their partnership in developing this immersion training program, which is one of the mayor's 90-day reform items. This training provides our officers with a unique view of challenges within certain neighborhoods as told by the community members, community-led, and stakeholders that live there. The hard work of building authentic community policing engagement begins from the training, when the training is complete. I am certain that DCOs will see that community policing perhaps is the most important tool any police officer can implement. Community members who are engaged and feel safe working with the police provide the best opportunity to reduce violence. Their insight and information is vital to solving crimes and developing proactive policing strategies. This proactive approach can include such things as offering job assistance, domestic violence counseling, or helping find housing. Chicago Police Department Initiative, Neighborhood Policing Initiative seeks to provide community members with an all-important connection point to the police department. The DCOs are a face, their name, and a phone number that can be relied upon for help. Our whole city benefits when residents are engaged with police on issues of public safety. The police cannot keep our city safe without the help of those living on every block and in every neighborhood. This new initiative aims to foster that relationship, and I am eager, excited, whatever other name you want to use. This is what policing is and should be. Now I would like to bring up the Commander Angel Novales of the Community Policing, Office of Community Policing, to the podium. Angel.
Good morning. I will address the Spanish media after the press conference, but first I'd like to begin with thanking Mayor Lori Lightfoot and Superintendent Brown and the City of Chicago for giving me the opportunity to be the commander of the Community Policing Group. Chicago's Neighborhood Policing Initiative is the first step from the Community Policing Group to reinvigorate our efforts in seeking community trust. Community policing has long since been a staple in Chicago. It's a place of comfort for some of our residents. The Neighborhood Policing Initiative, or NPI for short, will be a sister program that works in tandem with existing community policing offices and will work to support existing community policing efforts. We envision this program not only to be a crime-fighting mechanism, but also a relationship-building tool. This program aims to create opportunities where officers engage the community outside the traditional transactional way of policing. Opportunities at engagement is what we will create. We're doing this in an effort to create emotional bonds that are necessary to create relationships. Working with the 25th District and with the 15th District, I had the opportunity to actually see the emotional impact that this program has had, not only on members of the community, but also on our officers. Our officers came on this job to help. This is a vehicle that affords them that opportunity. Community policing in its current form is great. The addition of NPI will make our efforts even better. NPI encompasses the role of the DCO, and those are the folks that will be out there to help people. NPI is different from our current initiative in 4 different ways. Number 1 is geography. Community police now handles the needs of a community as a whole. NPI will concentrate on the issues in these district coordination areas that encompass 3 beats. Second is the focus. Community policing concentrates on the needs of a district as a whole. NPI will concentrate on the issues block to block, person to person. Next is contact. Community policing holds meetings and engagements to support the district's effort. Meetings such as senior meetings, youth meetings, beat meetings. The DCOs, they're going to go out into the communities and they're going to engage the residents where the residents feel comfortable. On their blocks, their porches, places where they feel comfortable enough to create relationships. Last will be technology, which the superintendent touched upon. They will have their cell phones, and it is expected of them to use that as a tool to build relationships with the people out in the community, and use that as a tool to create strategies along with the people in the community to help whatever issue ails that particular area. Community members also have a huge part to play in NPI. They're going to help create those strategies, and in an effort to empower those residents, they will have a role, an active role, in implementing those strategies. The strategies they're going to create are intended to support victims, to isolate, mitigate, and remove offenders. Also remove the opportunity afforded by a particular space and disrupt the opportunity afforded by time. So this is a lot to take in. So the easiest way that I can explain this is by offering up an anecdote. In the 25th district, while conducting a block walk, 2 of our DCOs encountered some residents who were having an issue in a small play lot, Monticello play lot. A gang conflict had entrenched itself in that small lot. So the DCOs canvassed the block to get information from members of the community. They walked through the park, identified factors outside of what was occurring there that they could eliminate that would alleviate that problem. They went back to the district and coordinated with the Strategic Decision Support Center to gather calls for service to see what type of incidents they were dealing with. They worked with the watch commanders on the watch to create a strategy to increase patrols in that area. And then they went back to the neighborhoods. They worked with city services to repair the fence so it couldn't be used as a route to escape. Working with the local alderman, they fixed the lighting on that park. They posted signs letting people know that that was not a park but a play lot, giving our officers something they can enforce. And lastly, those residents, they were tasked with opening and closing up the parks and ensuring that the park was clean. That's what problem solving in relationships look like. Another anecdote was simply this. We had a young girl, 12 years old, where our officers were going to that home over and over and over again. Over 15 calls for service because this young lady was suffering from mental illness. The DCOs went to that location, established an emotional bond with that family, guided that family to resources for mental health help. Several months later at our National Night Out event, that young girl showed up there with her parents to thank our officers. Not only was she emotionally touched, but I've never seen officers cry, and that was amazing because I knew that they had the opportunity to do what they were intended to do, and it was to help people. Relationships, they create collaboration, cooperation, and they help us mitigate conflict. With your help and the help of the residents, I look forward, and we all look forward, to making our city safe. With that being said, I'd like to give it to our next partner, Von Bryant. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of CPD, for having me here today. I'm very grateful for the partnership. I come here today wearing many hats. Most importantly, as a resident of Chicago and community member who's worked in this community for 11 years. My first job here was at Chicago Public Schools, where I built the Safe Passage Initiative. I spent some time at the Park District, and for the last 3 years, I've convened Communities Partner for Peace, which is a network of 15 community-based organizations who are working day in and day out to make our city a safer city. One of the jewels of that work came the Metropolitan Peace Academy, where we train our outreach workers in a 144-hour curriculum, 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, really providing professional standards for street outreach work. We've graduated over 120 men and women, mostly black and brown, across our city on the south and west sides primarily, and we've built a great community of peacemakers across this city. I also come to you as a former football player, former NFL employee, and current member of the NFL Players Coalition. Three of the pillars of the Players Coalition is police community relations, criminal justice reform, education, and economic advancement. And fortunately, as part of my membership and understanding, I was able to get support for this community training academy idea that we came up with 2 years ago. The strength of our Peace Academy is building community and building capacity within those communities. And we're gonna use that strength in all 22 police districts to build the capacity of our community residents to host these community training academies. I also come to you as a son of a police officer. My father was a Detroit police officer for 12, 13 years. And every coach I had before I became an NFL player, from the time I started until I got to high school, was a police officer. So I have a great perspective of what it's like to grow up with a police officer and understand them as human beings who are fathers and citizens in our communities, mothers as well. But I also understand the community perspective as well, given the work I've done. And so I feel very fortunate and very optimistic that we're gonna really set the foundation for a new relationship between CPD and our community members, built on trust, mutual respect, and collaboration. One of the things I've learned in my work is, a specific example to give you is District 11. District 11 has parts of West Humboldt Park, parts of North Lawndale, parts of East Garfield Park, and parts of West Garfield Park. You guys know Chicago is a city of neighborhoods. Every neighborhood is distinct, but in that one police district, you have at least four different communities. And so being able to, as a police officer, work that district, but understand those distinctions from the different people coming from those different communities is a very, very important tool to be used so that you can police that community in the best way. Those are the type of things that we want to get accomplished in this work, because we understand that the police, there's reverence in that job. There's an important pillar in our community, and it has to come back, and we have to have our community members as partners in this work, and they have to be empowered to contribute to their safety. And the only way we can do that is in partnership and in collaboration built on trust. So I thank you for this opportunity. We look forward to getting to work. And I want to bring up Marcus Williams, Austin resident, City of Chicago.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First off, I would like to thank these two officers right here. They helped me get a job, and they were there for the support. And the job, it really helped me, because I was in the streets. But this job is putting me back on my feet. And I'm proud to say I'm a changed man now. And I look forward to doing many other things. But these two officers, they was there from day one. And so I would like to thank them so much. And that's really it. I ain't really have too much to say, but thank you, everyone.
I'd like to welcome Chairman Rebollos to the podium.
First of all, I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot, Superintendent Brown. Thank you for being here. Commander Navales, Marcus, who just spoke, thank you for those words. And Vaughn, thank you. And my chairman of public safety, thank you for being here today. You're excited, but I'm more excited. Because I know the superintendent mentioned earlier that he was excited. I'm more excited. I experienced the DCO training. I experienced the DCO working in this capacity, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference when you have 4 areas in the 25th district and you have assigned DCO officers pertaining to that area. The neighborhood has your phone number. 911 calls are down because of the DCO work in our community, and that's going to work in the 15th, it's going to work in the 9th, 10th, and 11th. While those who spoke earlier extensively on this matter, I think it bears repeating that the Neighborhood Policing Initiative is the future of Chicago Police Department, and I think we need to remember that. En español dice que la iniciativa de vigilancia del vecindario es el futuro del Departamento de Policía de Chicago, y yo aplaudo a la alcaldesa Lori Lightfoot por continuar el esfuerzo para garantizar que las comunidades tengan voz en el esfuerzo de seguridad pública en la ciudad de Chicago. This intensive community policing approach not only prioritizes relationship building, but also focuses on the top priorities of the community, one-on-one. I know firsthand, as I said earlier, because it works in the 25th district, my home. I've seen how this initiative has given community members a meaningful voice in their neighborhoods and how we address public safety. I want to thank the Commander Navales because he was there with us when we were working one-on-one. I've seen all the 911 calls going down. Why? That's because the community policing officer, DCOs, are getting the calls directly to them, and they go right to the area where it's concerned. Small things go away so they don't become large things. Remember that. It builds on the results that we've seen the 25th district by truly bringing in the community as teachers and ensuring officers know the history of the neighborhoods they serve. They know the area right now. Again, this is the future of community policing, and we're doing it. And we will continue building on this effort block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, and district by district. I applaud Mayor Lightfoot for these continued efforts to ensure communities have a voice in the city's public safety efforts. Thank you. I will now invite Mayor Lightfoot to come to the podium and answer questions. Thank you again.
All right, happy to take any questions.
Good morning. My name is Eric Rung. I'm with WGN
Yes.
TV.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. First of all, for all the reporters listening, I did get your questions. I'm going to answer them in their order that I got them, and I've been asked to stay on topic first. So on topic, on the issue of trust, that is something that has really plagued the Chicago Police Department and the people they protect for decades now. How has this worked in the 25th district to build that trust when seemingly community outreach programs that the police department has done in the past have not?
Because I think this is fundamentally different. And you're right. The effectiveness of the police to be able to do their job, to serve and protect, really depends upon trust and legitimacy. Trust depends on actually being able to look somebody in the eye and build an authentic relationship. And I think the beauty of the DCO program is it understands those foundational elements of policing and builds upon them. So as you heard from Chairman Rebollos, as you heard from the Superintendent and Commander Navales, and as you heard from the young man who spoke earlier, this is about getting officers in a smaller set of beats where they really focus on the hyper-local issues that are top of mind for members of the community. They know, members of the community know exactly who they should call when they have these issues. And what the officers do is respond effectively to the needs of those community residents. And they look at it as not just this is a law enforcement action, but what is the nature of the problem, and how do I marshal the resources, not only the police department, but entire city government, to make sure that we're being responsive in solving these problems. So on these smaller issues, as Chairman Rebollo said, you get to the smaller issues before they become the bigger issues. But even if they're the bigger issues, there is a point of accountability that the residents can rely upon in those geographic areas. And again, the proof is in the pudding. We see that the 911 calls have gone down, not because there aren't challenges in the community, but because they know who to go to get those issues resolved with results and accountability.
Jesse with Channel 7, just sorry to.
Well,
just to
I think we're gonna, I
well,
think
just
he's
because
a
it's the same question, it's a follow-up to the same question.
All right, but I want to make sure we're following
Okay, all right.
You're here, I see you, I see Dave, I see others, but the protocol is we go through the poll reporter and then we'll open it up. Go ahead, sir.
If you're seeing this success and you're starting to expand it, why not just expand it citywide?
Well, we want to do this in a thoughtful way, and we're going first, of course, to the Tier 1 districts, meaning the districts that have the largest challenges. We're using the data to design it. It may get to a point where we roll it out in every district, but we want to make sure that we are providing resources to those communities that are most in need first, and then we build upon those successes. Everywhere it started, we've learned lessons, and we've refined it, and we've adapted. And we're going to do the same thing as we roll it out in these other districts.
Those small problems are issues that can obviously blossom into larger issues. Violence is still top of mind for people who are living it every day.
Yes, of course.
How are you addressing that now?
Well, this is also about that. It's not one thing divorced from the other, and I'll invite the superintendent to come up. But if you look at actually the data over the last 3 weeks, we're actually seeing progress in the larger strategy that the superintendent initiated probably a month to 6 weeks ago. Superintendent?
As the mayor mentioned, it's all interconnected. Building trust is really the foundation for reducing crime, particularly violent crime. So if people don't trust you, they don't come forward with information when you do have violent crime. And when people don't come forward, criminals feel emboldened that people won't report them, won't turn them in. So again, the foundation of it is building the trust. And once you build the trust, now you can frame the house up and put the roof on and put windows in and doors. You can do the other things much easier because your foundation is strong, because you took the time to build the trust that's needed for people to come forward. Instead of criminals feeling emboldened, they're on their heels, concerned that someone might turn them in. And that's how you sustain long-term reductions in crime, particularly violent crime, as you mentioned.
In some of the people that will be in these new positions, are they going to be from the neighborhood? Are you going to try to do that, to get the people policing the neighborhoods where they grew up?
Yes, but let me give Angel an opportunity to come and talk about this. I just love to hear his anecdotes about how this has worked in 25 and 15, and moving forward, our expectation of how this will work going into other districts. Angel.
Hi, how you doing? To answer your question on who we're choosing for those positions, if someone that applies for the position tells us they're from that area, we are going to give extra consideration to that person because they have that knowledge base in the area. When we first started the program, we did a citywide NOJO, which is a notice of job opportunities, and we brought officers that were doing this at a grassroots level to the 25th district. It was a new program, people didn't know much about it, so we didn't have that interest. By the time we ran and we began to look for more DCOs in our own district, solely in our district, for 2 positions, we received over 30 applications, which tells us that the program, if people get to know it and get to see how it works, and it touches with the fact that they want to help people, they'll come forward. It would be good to have folks from those areas, and we will give them special consideration, but the idea is that officers want to help, and this is going to afford them the opportunity to help in the areas and in the districts where they've grown to have an investment in.
Okay, I'm going to move on now. This is from Fran. How can you justify such a large police presence near your home at a time when police officers are stretched to the limit and working 12-hour days? And why are you enforcing a law banning protests at residential homes that has not been enforced in recent memory when protesters showed up at homes of your predecessors, including Mayor Emanuel?
So as always, Fran has multiple questions rolled into one, so let me try to take them. Say it again?
You got it in one email, so.
Yeah, so, but it's multiple questions, as it always is with Fran. And I'm going to defer, in the first instance, to the superintendent. But I'm going to say this. This is a different time like no other. This is a different time like no other. And I'm not going to make any excuses for the fact that given the threats that I have personally received, given the threats to my home and my family, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they are protected. And I make no apologies whatsoever for that. We are living in very different time. And I've seen the threats that have come in. And I have an obligation to keep my home, my wife, my 12-year-old, and my neighbors safe. The deployments that are there when they are necessary. It's not a 24-hour thing. And I think that residents of the city, understanding the nature of the threats that we are receiving on a daily basis, understand that I have a right to make sure that my home is secure. I've talked to my fellow mayors across the country and seen the kind of things that have been done to them and their family members. I'm not going to have that happen. That's not what my wife and my child signed up for. It's not what my neighbors signed up for. We have a right in our home to live in peace, just as every resident in our city does, and we're going to take the actions that are necessary. So comparing this to some other time doesn't make any sense, because there is no other time like this one that we're in. Superintendent?
Can you elaborate
Hold
on
on
the-
1 second. Superintendent.
Yeah, I was going to expand on what the mayor ended with, how unprecedented the time is, and the comparison to any previous time. Maybe you have to go back to 1968 for the civil unrest comparison, but then you have to go back to 1917 for the global pandemic comparison. So there's really not a time where the two have converged, and such that we have seen very peaceful First Amendment protests for the most part, but embedded in each of those protests have been very violent people. And they're embedded, they put up umbrellas, and they come for a fight. So we have to prepare for what we've seen. You know, one thing I really try to do is I try to accept people when they show me who they are. These people embedded in these protests have shown us they're violent. They're violent in our downtown, they're violent in our neighborhoods, and they're violent at the mayor's house. And so we have to protect, we're sworn to protect people from violence, and we're going to do our job. Thank you.
And just, is it essentially a ban, or is it a ban? Just to be clear on protesting at your house,
No, protesting in neighborhoods
neighborhoods.
is not,
State law.
it's not legal. What we try to do is err on the side of First Amendment rights. And so we give a little bit of wiggle room there. We compromise. Except for the embedded violence we've seen. We have to accept that that's a reality today. It's unprecedented that you would embed violent offenders in a peaceful protest, but that's what's happened. So we're going to protect not only our downtown, our other neighborhoods, but the mayor's neighborhood is also included in that. Thank you.
And Mayor, can you elaborate on some of the threats that you are getting daily?
No, I won't go into specifics. I don't really see that serves any purpose. But suffice it to say, every single day, there's something that pops up. And there are specific threats to my person, to my wife, and to our home. And we're going to do everything that we can, just like any other resident in this city deserves to have peace in their home. And so I also want to correct one other thing that I think the reporting has gotten wrong. The reporting suggests that every single day there's hundreds of police officers out in front of my house. That's just not true. Drive by, 3434 West Wrightwood. Everybody knows what the address is. But when there is a threat, when we have intelligence, we want to make sure that our officers are also safe and that we have sufficient resources to address the threats that are there. So when the large protesters come and there are people that are embedded in them and we've seen them, you know, the record of our officers with fractured eye sockets, broken arms, and other kinds of injuries, those threats are real, and we need to have sufficient deployment when we see those threats coming to make sure that our officers are going to be able to return home safely to their families as well.
Okay, CPD launched a site to identify looters. Are there plans to release similar websites so the public can identify suspects in shootings or other violent crimes?
Oh, we've done that all along. If you don't know that, check the CPD website, my friend. That information is constantly out there,
I'm just reading the questions.
okay? I'm just answering the question.
This is a question about overtime.
Why don't you tell us who the questions are from? That's typically
I'm
the
sorry.
protocol.
This is from Jim Daly from the Southside Weekly. So the Sun-Times had reported in April that Superintendent Brown ordered all overtime to be approved by officers with rank or deputy chiefs or higher. What does that approval process look like, and what are the steps you're taking to ensure deputy chiefs are accountable for the overtime?
Basically, I'll start with nothing to see here. We are good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and we don't apologize for that. We wanted to ensure that we were making sure we were spending the taxpayer dollars as it relates to overtime in the most prudent way, and we feel satisfied that that's being done.
Okay, I have 2 questions left, that's it, from other people. This is from Amy Jacobson. Are you aware that on August 29th, Tikkun High International will be attempting to shut down the Mag Mile from 4 to midnight? A Back the Blue group will be counter-protesting. What measures are you going to take to protect businesses, and what are the rules of engagement?
We are aware that there is a planned march at that time. The police department and others are attempting to engage the organizers to make sure that it is truly just a peaceful protest.
Okay, and this is the last one from Heather from WTTW. U.S. Attorney's Office announced yesterday that 61 people have been arrested in Chicago as part of Operation Legend. Are you pleased with those results? Have federal authorities cooperated with Chicago Police Department? Will you ask the agents to stay longer than anticipated?
Well, let me say this and then I'll have the superintendent come. As we've been saying all along, FBI, DEA, ATF, they've had offices here in the city of Chicago probably 50 or 60 years. So the additional resources that have been put into those offices, that's nothing new. That happens from time to time. We welcome the support of the efforts of the Chicago Police Department. And as I said, the actual resources just got here on, believe, around August 3rd. So it's still early days. A lot of what's happened are long-standing investigations that are just coming into fruition now, in part because the federal grand juries have been reconvened. They were on hiatus for much of the time during the pandemic and really started getting reinvigorated, I believe, in second or third week of July. So we'll evaluate, and the superintendent is in constant contact with his federal partners, and we'll evaluate when we have seen enough to be able to know whether or not there's been an impact. Superintendent?
I would just say what I've been determined not to do is politicize professional law enforcement in any way. And I understand the rabbit hole narrative of federal forces coming here. It's not Portland. They have been collaborating with us on cases in ways where our local federal partners engage with us every day. So the question whether 61 is enough, we've got work to do here in Chicago with our federal and state partners, and that work continues without politicizing any of the efforts. Thank you.
Mayor, first off, apologies for the faux pas in the ordering there. Jesse Hurst from Channel 7, the 90-day reform that you talked about earlier, and I know a lot of this has been focused on the expansion of NPI, but I was wondering if you could clarify a little bit more about who will be going to that 3-day training academy with community members. Is it just DCOs? Is it beyond the NPI teams?
I'll let, where's Commander Navalis identify that. He's got the particulars.
Initially, the plan is to have the DCOs go through that training. We feel that training is going to better arm them to go into the communities and have an understanding of what's going on in those communities, have some cultural understanding in that particular neighborhood. And then after that, we would like to see an expansion of it, but currently it's going to be the DCOs as we roll out.
Are any of the other 90-day reforms going to be more broadly throughout the department? Because, I think some people might ask why the entire department isn't being touched with some of these immediate reforms.
Well, they will be. I've been very, very clear about this for a number of years, making sure that our officers have what we call cultural literacy, meaning that they learn more about a community other than what the crime stats are, is critically important to everything that we're talking about in terms of building trust and legitimacy. And again, I want to thank Von Bryant and the Academy for their partnership on this issue. Bringing community voices into the training is, I think, one of the things that we should have done years ago. We're correcting that problem now. We will build upon what I believe will be a successful launch of this program and expand it into a regular part of our curriculum. But we want to make sure that we get it right. The priority, obviously, is these DCOs, given the critical role that they're going to be playing in being community liaisons. And then we will look to adapt the curriculum to expand it to the entire department.
And then just one other question I had for the superintendent. I know since we had the unrest in recent days, there's been renewed focus on how to mitigate future problems like that. I wonder if you could give us an update on anything specifically in the social media space, chatter space, that your department might be looking at right now for future problems that you're trying to avoid right now?
Sure, I won't go into too much detail on the intelligence side, but to make the point that our looking at open source social media is no different than reading the paper or listening to the TV news. It is the platform, it is the space where many people communicate openly, publicly. The expectation of privacy is not in that open source space. And so we're just basically reading the paper online by utilizing social media to help inform us on any type of deployment strategy that's necessary. Thank you.
Superintendent Brown, while you're up there, David Greising from the Better Government Association. I'm curious, you talk about this NPI having the ability to reduce violent crime. What is your experience elsewhere, or what does other experiences in other cities show you in terms of how long it takes between the time when you implement a program like this and when you actually see that kind of reduction in violence?
That's a very insightful question. There is a maturation process as it relates to building trust. Think about it this way. Any kind of relationship that you have, whether it's a family relationship, any kind of relationship where you're married or dating in any way, the quick development is likely not sustainable. The efforts you make to build trust, authentic relationships, are likely taking more time and can be sustained over a long period of time. It's actually the effort that really helps build the trust. So to do it quickly is likely not sustainable. Putting effort in, taking the time to build a relationship is likely how we want to proceed with this effort in order to ensure sustainability.
Thank you, sir. And Mayor Lightfoot, there's been one day of testimony so far with regard to the police handling of by the consent decree monitor regarding police handling some of the protests, the Columbus statue protest incident in particular. There's another one, I believe, today. Based on what you've heard from that.
So David, I apologize, but I'm having a very difficult time hearing you. It's my bad hearing and the mask. So.
Do you mind?
No, I don't mind.
Thank you.
So if you could repeat the question.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's been one day of testimony to the consent decree monitor with regard to the protests broadly speaking, but at the Columbus statue protest in particular. There's another hearing today. Based on what you've heard so far about that testimony, how concerned are you about what the testimony has covered, and what does it tell you about progress toward reform of policing in this city?
Well, look, I have a great deal of confidence in the monitor. She's somebody that I've known for a number of years, and I know that she's going to approach this in a thoughtful, fact-driven, data-driven way. She has reached out, obviously, and received a lot of information, including video evidence from what happened that night, and you've seen some of it, right? We know that a peaceful protest absolutely got hijacked by vigilantes who came for a fight. They were hurling frozen water bottles, throwing M80s and other fireworks at our officers, and they formed a phalanx and went directly at them. That's startling. The first time I saw that, I was very, very concerned and alarmed because it was clearly not peaceful protests that happened with those instigators who were, by the way, at the front line of the protests as it marched south on Columbus Avenue. So I have confidence that the monitor will make sure that she understands the totality of the circumstances there, and hopefully we will have an opportunity, I'm sure we will, to engage directly with her about what we saw, what lessons learned, and how we have adapted, both as a police department but also as a city.
My name is Mitch. I'm with the Sun-Times. I just wanted to ask, how big of a geographic area or how many residents is any one DCO going to be responsible for?
I believe, and again, I'll ask Commander Navalis, but I believe it's 3 beats per DCO, but Commander will give you the more details.
Hi, so the areas, what we do is we try to choose beats that are sharing a similar demographic, similar crime patterns, and similar gang conflicts in those areas. So taking the 25th district as an example, with a census population roughly over 200,000, and with our undocumented residents could be up to 230,000. It's a little difficult to say what the exact number is because the areas are different. We have industrial sites, we have residential areas, and we have business areas. But the idea is to actually have 2 officers on 3 beats at all times. And in not looking at population, what we'd like to look is at time, how much time they're spending on that beats. And what we're looking for is to have them on those 3 beats at least 80% of the time during their tour. The longer they're there, the more folks they can engage, the smaller that large number looks.
But how big is a beat? I don't think many people.
Well, beats could vary. They could vary based on natural structures, train yards. They range in sizes.
And last question is, can you provide an update on the condition and investigation of the mother and daughter who were injured in a shooting in the Austin neighborhood yesterday?
We don't have any additional update from yesterday, but as soon as we do, we'll definitely inform you.